Okay, we are back, and looking at after when I was done this, it dawned on me that when we snap, right, we get this stuff. The other thing we need to do is this position is going to our snap. So we need to also get the rotation and set that rotation as well, right? Because we get this snap piece, which we put here, and we use snap temp. So we also need to get the rotation, which isn't a big deal for the foundation pieces, but for the walls and stuff, it's going to be a bigger deal, of course. So we need of the world space will probably be fine. Let's get the Y. And we want to set rotation of current building to that same snap rotation also in world. Now the other thing we're going to want to do is when we come out of the snap, we're also just going to want this guy back to 0. And this one we can get rid of, he doesn't need to be there. So the other thing, so where we left off, like everything was pretty much working except for this little portion down here. When I was thinking about it, I'm like, man, we really should just do this portion more or less in another FSM. Just a way to reduce things, right? We don't want to overload that one FSM anyways, so if we just make another FSM, and we'll call this one something like that. So when we get an event, we'll call it reduce. Sure. So we will reduce, and we need to reduce the same, more or less the same stuff. So we have the player, but we're going to have the recipes, right? And that's what we need to reduce. So we have here this recipe. So we need a get event info, and this will be recipe to reduce. So more or less when we're crafting and we hit here, and if we go built, instead of running this logic, it's going to head up here to the destroy, right? And all we want to do here is I'm going to come up, hit control or hold control as I'm doing this part, and send an event to this own guy to reduce. But we also need to set event data, and game object data is the recipe we're dealing with. So that's the array type in question, the name. Alright, so we clicked on a button. We want recipe name, contained index, the recipe in question. So now we have our own little FSM. We don't have to worry about anything else, and we know that we need to reduce this guy's stuff. So now, when I first ever did this kind of thing, I would say, like, if you say, like, oh, well, you need 10 wood, so let's go to the player and reduce wood by 10, and that works in a very basic way. But what would happen if you have your inventory and it's split, and you have one slot that's got 5 and one slot's got 20? Well, you can't reduce 10 from 5. So it would have to split. You have to reduce 5 and then reduce 5 over here, or reduce 10 off of the 21, because you can't go 10 off the 5 because you'll be negative 5. And so then you'd have to try to find the right slot that has the amount, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. So the easiest way to do it is when you have 10, something like this, instead of reducing 10, you reduce 1 10 times. So we have this recipe to reduce. So what do we have to reduce? We need array. Is that an array list? So he has an index, and these are just normal arrays. So let's just move over here, and array get. We're gonna have to, or not get. Get's not gonna work because we need, because we can't iterate through the other array, right? FSM array. So we have to more or less copy the entire array over. So I'm just going to copy this guy for a reference. The recipe, we need the type, which is a string. An array. And we need an array for quantity, which we're using an integer. So we have the type, and I'm going to take this and copy and paste, and we have quantity, which is the course, because it likes to set itself after, so let's just delete it and remake it. If you ever have that issue where you can't change the selected variable type, just delete it and remake it. So this is now of this guy. So we're making a copy of what this guy wants. So we've made a copy. And now that we have that copy, so this is retrieve start data, copy recipe arrays. Then we need to iterate or array get next. So for each type, we're going to have a loop, and we're going to have the index, and we have the current type. So we're going to loop through this array, and as we loop through this array, we need to find in our player, where's our player? Right there. Let's drag him over. In our player, we need to find that same, this guy, right? We need to find out where that thing is. So we need to now array list. Array list contains, so of the player, and we have array list names, and this is a string, and the variable we're going to use is a new variable called player type. More importantly, is the player index. So we're looping through our array. We find our type, right, which will say be wood, and then we're going to come over here and we're like, okay, so where's the index in the players in this guy? And once we have that index, we can then go and take away from this guy at that same index. So we can then go over here. Let's finish this guy. So we have found what we want, and we can now array list get. This is also from the player, and this is inventory quantity at the player index. And this is a type integer. We get that quantity. We need to int subtract by 1. And we're going to reinsert that value, or replace that value, I guess you could say. Oh. And that same array at that same index with a new integer, well, I guess not new, with player quantity. So we get the quantity, reduce 1, set it back in. right? And then we would loop through, right? Because he'd now go boop, 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 forever. We don't want it forever though, right? So what we would need is, well, okay, well, we're not going to keep that part. So we need as well is when this guy is coming over, we need to get this guy, right? So as we loop over, we need to know how many times we want to run this loop. So this one's an array get, because we can use our copied array values, quantity at type index, store as required amount. So now we have this required amount. So now we know how many times we want to loop, right? So we can find which is, and you want to keep running this one in part of the loop. So if he has his stacks or the item split in his inventory, it'll run through and clear them. Like he'll run through and get them all. Right, so we are going to subtract. Let's kind of put these in a line. I'm going to delete that guy so I don't have to look at it anymore. So we find the spot, we reduce 1, I'm going to go, actually let's go up here. I'm going to run a action called iterate. This one's usually on the ecosystem. So we are starting at 0, we're ending at the required amount, and we are going to loop. I don't know why I did that. We already had one, and we have a done. So when we're looping, we're going to actually subtract 1, but when we're done, we want to come back over here and get the next one in the array, if there is another one in the array. So what we want to do is, okay, so we are looping, this guy's looping through the types. This is the amount we want to subtract. We're going to loop the amount that we want to subtract. We're going to subtract 1. Like that. So the other thing is that when we subtract 1, we do need to make sure that if we hit 0, that we clear that out, right? So if player quantity, int compare, so if player quantity is equal to 0, we need to clear it. And if not, then great, we'll just continue on. If it's less, you can do clear, even though it should never be less. It should hit that before that. So, okay, so if it's that, we'll go back here and redo that whole loop. But if it hits 0, we need to clear it, and we're going to clear it by going array list. We don't want to clear because that clears the whole bloody thing. Remove at. So the array list is going to be, of course, on the player. And that is going to be this guy here. And we don't need to technically clear all 3. I mean, well, really, I mean, if this one's at 0, it's pretty much a default value anyways. This one we just use for when we open and close up the inventory. We're doing most of our stuff, well, all the searches and stuff like that based on the name. So that's the main one. So at the index of the player index, and back to him. Just like that. So now if I take this player and we loop through and grab this stuff and we open up crafting, we go like that. Let's take a look here. Ooh. We have 20. And we have some issue here. So let's take a look. So this guy did his stuff. And this guy fired. And well, he tried. So he's looping. He doesn't have it done. Type index is 0. Not too sure what this thing's complaining about. The index is out of range. Well, not really. Alright, well, let's clear that and I'll give this guy his done. Possibly because we're using an array of 1, maybe. Which, if that's the case, I mean, there's ways around that too. So we craft, we build. He's giving us our little error. We come over. So we see he does want the 10. That part's working. Player index at -1. Something weird with that. So from the player inventory name, string player type. Alright, so player type array list contains player type. Why did we not get a player? Result current type. I should have probably have done that. I think I just more or less messed that up. Because we want the current type. That's what we're looking for. Where did I come up with player type? That must have been going too quick. Because we're getting our type, well, our current type from the type array and the index. And then our current type is what we're looking for. That's what we're getting here. We're trying to find that same thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I probably made extra variables for some strange reason. I do that all the time. Let's craft, build. We never got an error this time. And let's look at quantity. Oh, look at that, reduced by 10. Let's just double check that. So we grab our player, pick them all up. Let's check this while we're here. Oh yeah, okay, we're at 20. We craft. We're still at 20. And we build. And we've gone to 9. Well, that's one too many. And that's probably going to be this iterate guy. Because we need to take away 1 from that amount. Required amount, subtract 1. And that's going to be with the whole 0, starting at 0 with arrays and stuff thing. Alright, yeah. And now if we look, we'll grab our player, grab our stuff. We see our quantity is at 20. We craft, we do this, we build. And it went to 15. Oh, what the hell? We started at 25? Okay, we're 20. Why did that go to 15? That is unless we did pick up 25 and it didn't update at that point in time, maybe. Quantity is 10. 4. Wait a minute, I probably should not be subtracting the required amount every frickin' loop. Oh, what was I thinking there? Move that over here. That's just going to cause issues. Alright, so we go and pick those up. We're going to go over to this guy, we open him up, we see him at 20. Turn on the live update. And we hit craft. And we hit build. There we go, we have 10. Perfect. Exactly what we wanted. Okay, so let's save that. And, well, one more test. Let's just make sure we're not subtracting when we cancel. Right? If we go to build and if I right click, we just cancel. We should still be at 20. Okay, good. So there we have that portion done now. So the other thing, and I wanted to I was thinking like, oh well, this thing's pretty much done. And I was like, oh wait, no it's not. We should do a wall, and there was a request to do on the inventory portion of this, more or less on how you would make like a box, right? So you can store things into it. So we'll get to that. The actual box probably won't be for a few videos, because first we'll have to do our wall. We'd have to work a little bit on how the interactions work with the inventory just to start off with, and then you'd kind of move over so you can build a box and then store things into it. So if I go over here and I go buildings, and we find a wall somewhere. Oh, where's a wall? Curved. We don't want curved. Just a normal wall. These are all too big. A wall 1 by 1. Yeah, okay, well that's the right size. We can use that. So here is a wall. It's going to look a little funny, but you'll get the idea. So here we have a wood floor. So all I'm going to do is, because I've got this prefab here, is I'm actually going to unprefab this one, and I'm going to change it from foundation to wall, and I'm going to take its model and just delete it, take our new wall and stuff it in. Now we have some adjustments, right? So with a wall, we probably don't want foundations. Well, probably don't want foundations or wall sockets. I think the only thing you'd want, you might want to do like a stairs or, you know, things to hang. So right now I'm just going to deactivate them. I'm not going to bother deleting them. But normally I think you'd want to delete those or move them and change them so you have like a maybe like a spot to hang a picture. I don't know. It could be all sorts of things. But the other thing I want is this anchor point to be in the middle. So I'm going to take him and move him 1.25. So now that anchor point is in the middle. Right? Just like that. Now we'll call him a stone wall. More of a cement wall, but yeah. It's okay. So this is building part. So let's go into there. And stone wall. Let's take a look. Well, let's go into the actual prefab. So we have color, and it's all gonna be the same, right? We're going to use that same material. The only thing that might change is, oh yeah, we get component of the part. And our part itself is this guy. So we get the collider, and we get the material of the part. We're going to set the material here to the bad material. Set material here to the good material. Set the material to the build material, that's what we store here, right? Yeah, that's what we store there. We're going to play with the collider, and what was this guy? Set property. What are we setting property of? I forget what that guy is. So the build, we enable the collider, and we make sure the collider is not a trigger, which it's not a trigger. We're not even doing that portion. You can actually delete that because we're using, yeah, we don't need that. No, we'll just get rid of that. We're not using that. Get rid of them, both of them. Trigger. So here, yeah, see here, it wasn't the trigger, but this is where we're taking that collider and we're enabling it. Because it's disabled to start with. good there. The collision check might change for the walls. And of course, we got some values there we got to fill. Distance to the player is going to be the same. So it's just the collision checks. So here we're getting properties. Right now, with this guy is going to be a little different. So we are box casting, right? So we get the position, we're adding X, Y, Z. We add a slight bit to it. And we're doing the size of the box. So all we really need is the probably dragging the right thing will help. We need the size. And then we need size Y. And we did size Y as twice, I believe. So the size is now, we are from position, layer mask. Alright, I think that should actually be okay. Let's take a quick look. So we take this little box here. Right, so he's good. So his color should be good. And he doesn't have the part because that was part of the prefab. We did that too. So we'll drag a new prefab out. Alright, so now we have this little wall. We are having issues. Obviously with the size there. So we can come down a fair ways. That's interesting. So we need to adjust that for sure. So because he is let's get rid of, I'm going to turn these ones off for now. Let's use the full thing. Get the position with box collider. So we take the stone wall now. Okay, yeah. I see. we need to go up the height. That's what's going on. Because if I was to sit up here, he's box casting down. At least down halfway. Yeah, exactly halfway. So what we need to do is, if he's halfway down, we need to move it up half the distance. So we need to get the y, and we're going to multiply that y by 0.5. And we can now add, we'll just add the y. And that should be all we need. So now, unless I went the wrong direction, looks possibly like that's what I may have done. Okay, so now still not quite there. It's better. It doesn't interact with the player, which is fine. We don't want to interact with the player. But that's obviously way too high still. It needs to go up a fair bit. So what are we going to do with that? We need to, we get his y, multiply a negative, so we get half of the y, but in a negative form. We never do add it. Why am I adding that? Adding that to the size. No, I don't want to add it to the size. Yeah, I'm thinking right over here we want to change its position, not just its size. Alright, so here we have obviously something really weird. Okay. Alright, now take away that. That's looking a little better. Right, because now he goes in. There we go. That's what we had to do. Sometimes you just gotta play a bit, I guess. So we're gonna want a little bit of forgiveness on this down portion though, because if we have it going into a foundation, he's probably going to be touching it a little bit, right? So we're going to need to have him with a little bit of give, right? Doesn't need a whole lot, but he's going to need a little bit. So we multiply by 0.5, so we get half, and we're adding it. So let's do by 0.4. See if that's even the right direction. No, that was the wrong direction. I'm gonna go 0.6. 0.6 might even be a little too high. 0.55. Alright, so stone wall is now, if he goes in just a little bit, right? Like 0.55 might even be a little much, but that's okay. Right? There, now he's got proper collisions. Right? Okay, so let's go in and just clean that one up a bit. Right, because we're not using a few of these things. Let's just get rid of them. So it's a little cleaner. Okay, so there we go. So there is a wall. And we need a recipe. I'm just going to duplicate this guy. And we'll call him a stone wall. And his name will be stone wall. I don't know, slightly different icon, something like that maybe. And his result isn't going to be a stone or a wood floor, it'll be a stone wall. And maybe he needs stone. Well, we'll keep 10. Sure. Alright. So now, where is our crafting list? So here we now have a pre-fill count. There's 2 save recipes stone wall. So let's get rid of him. Let's just see what's happening now. So we go crafting, we now have wood floor stone wall. So obviously I can't click on these because we don't have anything to build with, so it's not going to let us. We take our player and we go and pick all this stuff up. Now if I hit create wall, do we have enough stuff? Yeah, we have 15 stone. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, so we hit stone wall. He is not registering that we are clicking. If I click him, that is registered. No, that's not registering either. What did we do? We changed something, and now we're not getting our clicking. Oh, now it went. Well, I don't know what the fuck that was about. So here we have the same kind of idea, right? But we have to be in closer. Now, we don't have any of the logic in right now, but it's, right? So if we go to the player, we can now see our stone has gone down. We were at 15, not our wood, right? So all that part's working. So that is somewhat working. Now we need obviously a bit of work on that placement portion of it, right? We don't just want to drop walls everywhere. We want walls to say they're required to say go on a snap. You know, maybe they're not. So we more or less need that option, right? Because we have the snap. So this guy's looking for snaps. Get tag string compare. So we're looking for his own style of, which is going to be wall, and if it's the right type, he'll go. So where is, I'm at the wrong thing here. There we go. So here, if we're going to build something, right, the snapping is going to look, we're doing all the ray casting, and we need to know if he is on a snap. If he's not on a snap, he can't be okay. And that's where I think like this guy is going to come into play for us. So we need to modify these so that these things can see and react to those snaps. Right? So we have the collision checks, but we need a snap check. And all we're going to do with that one, let's check our time. Now we're just about done. But all we need to do is we know he has a wall socket, and they are on a socket layer, and they have a string, and these are triggers. So we need the opposite of what this guy's doing, right? This guy's making sure we have nothing in there. But on the snap, we want to have that snap in there, right? So we could just run that check. Might not be necessarily needed, but yeah, you know what, it's probably going to be the fastest, easiest way. So if we get all of this, and we're going to go just to here. I'm going to take those three states and copy those. Come over here, and I'm going to, oh damn it. It's one thing I hate about this new, the new PlayMaker is that copy paste. If you close this window, it seems to clear that copy. You have to keep this open. So if you, as long as you click there, but this is open, you can still copy and paste. But if you close it, you lose your clipboard. So this is going to be the same thing. Like we're literally doing the exact same thing, except layer mask is only going to be the socket layer. And if this hits so more or less, okay, so if it's equal to 0, we're just going to loop around. Give this one a little next frame. Call him good. Where this thing says bad because we're hitting something, what we need to do is get tag. I actually need 2 of those. So we need it to also get our owner. So a tag is going to be our tag, and we need to get this guy. One of these guys is tags. So let's just do an array get, and we probably don't need a loop through the whole thing. And really, how many sockets are we really going to be hitting at a time? Like, they're kind of staged out. So let's do socket tag and that one. So we'll get our tag. We can probably move that one over here. Doesn't need to do it over there. So we're going to get whatever we're hitting. We're just going to get the first one of the array. I mean, really, the array should only have one in it. We're going to get its tag, and we're going to string compare. So if our tag and the socket tag are equal, then it's a match. If it's not equal, then it's going to be bad. So if it's bad, just go up here. But if it's good, then we can now send an event to the color that you are good. I don't think actually we want to do that, but because we need also collision checking, so these things need to be in unison. So let's go back to our snap check. Let's not send the event. Instead, let's use a bool here. On snap. So then we can over here, right? So if we match, set bool on snap true. Copy. If we're bad, he can be false. So if we hit something with our box cast, we're going to check to make sure we've hit something. And if we have, or well, if we haven't, then we'll just go back and recast. If we actually have hit something though, we're going to check we're going to get whatever we hit. We're going to check our tag versus the socket tag. And if they don't match, we're not on the snap. If they match, they're on the snap. And off they go. So on the collision check, so when we come down and we get all this stuff, and things are good, right? We have that distance to player. We are going to want to get this again. Only this time it's going to be the snap check on snap on snap. Now obviously bool test isn't going to work. But we do have bool all true. So we have two bools. We have on snap and distance. And if they're true, then we're good. Oh, we got to make sure we copy these ones. And if, so that's all true, and it doesn't have a false. So, you know, let's just do a next frame for the false. I mean, the next frame's not going to kill it. Probably almost good for it. Oh, we didn't mean to do the finish either. Let's do bad. There we go. So now, if I say put a wood floor here, and the wood floor is going to look kind of funny, but it should serve its purpose. So we get the player, we grab our stuff. we hit crafting, we go stone wall. So it doesn't matter how close we are to the player, it's going to be bad. We go over here and we snap. We're snapping to those positions. And we're taking the rotation. So let's just move this guy closer to the player. And he should now have, I'm just going to pause him while he's on it. Because this could be where the collision check might be screwing this one up. And it's just one thing we just need to check on, right? So we can see, if we go into his variables, on snap, he's not seeing it. And collision check, well, if we hit there, it is empty, so he's not hitting that collision, right? But the on snap is false. So the on snap isn't picking him up. So where is this guy's snap? Sockets. He should be picking him up. I'm not even too sure why he's not. Other than possibly this thing here on the snap check. Because we moved it up, right? For the collision part, but I don't think we should have that on the snapping part. So again, let's take the player and pick up these. Let's make sure he's close to this. Go crafting, create the wall, come over here, see it snap. Oh, see it turn green? We're over here, we're red. Oh, it's green over there. Oh, we have a little issue. And so it's still thinking it is snapped, I'm guessing. Because we never clear that array. And we need to make sure we're clearing that array. Right, so we have the length. Yes, so yes, we need to make sure we clear that array. We do so on the floor one. We aren't doing it here because it was a copy. So on here, we need to array clear array resize. So let's clear the hit objects and let's resize hit objects. Start fresh with his little checking system. Right, so now we craft, we create our stone wall. We're over here, it's all bad. Come over here, snap, it turns good. Come over here, it turns bad. Oh, he's good again though. Right there. So what's happening now with this guy? He has, let's go next frame, comes over, he sees, no, it's not there. And he just says next frame. So he never resets this to false. I see. Well, that's an easy fix. Right, so if he's bad, we don't want to just clear it. well, sorry, if he's technically, if this one's good, which is, he's bad. Let's just move him up here so he clears. Alright, so now, see if we can get this done real quick. Grab our stuff, stick him over here, hit crafting, stone wall. He's bad. Oh. He's still bad. Nope, now he turned good. He's good. He's good. He's bad. He doesn't like that side for some reason. Oh, that's probably because he's too far from the player. But, yeah. So there we go. It's working. If I click, ba-doop, he builds. Alright. Well, that was a long video. But we did the wall, and we got the snap, and he adjusts his rotation. We got the subtracting of resources working good. So we need some interactions with our inventory. We also need some nodes and stuff. So I should probably build a miniature character controller for this guy so we can, you know, hack down a fake tree and mine a fake rock and get these things popping out in the world and actually interact with them a bit. And yeah, some interactions with the inventory, and then we should be good from there, I think. Anyways, we'll check you in the next video. Talk to you later.